Up next, all the latest national and international stories, and at 9, it's Outside Source with an interactive take on the world.
Need to catch up on the day's action from the Commonwealth Games? Well, we're here with all the stories behind the medals. Get the news, analysis and special guests from the Gold Coast. The 2018 Commonwealth Games on Sports Day, tomorrow night at 6:30 on the BBC News Channel.
The art historians are back.
This is the time of huge exploration and expansion.
Wow, absolutely breathtaking.
This is something to come and see.
This is BBC News. I'm Martine Croxall. The headlines at 8. Yulia Skripal releases her first statement since the Salisbury nerve agent attack, saying she woke up a week ago and that her strength is growing daily. It comes as Russian state television broadcasts an unverified recording of a phone call. It claims Yulia Skripal tells her cousin in Russia that everything is fine. Russia's ambassador to the UK continues to deny his country's involvement in the nerve agent attack and questions Britain's role.
We have a lot of suspicions about Britain. You know, if you take the, let's say, last 10 years, so many Russian citizens died here in the UK under very strange circumstances.
Concern over the capital's growing murder rate as 2 more men die in separate attacks in East London. Also ahead in the next hour, a BBC investigation finds cladding used at Grenfell Tower fell short of its claimed safety standards in fire tests. It also found a UK body that grades building materials wasn't informed. Staff at the Open University called for the immediate resignation of their Vice-Chancellor Peter Horrocks with a vote of no confidence. Good evening and welcome to BBC News. Yulia Skripal, one of the victims of the Salisbury poisoning, has made her first public statement a month after the attack on her and her father. She said she's been conscious for over a week and that her strength is growing every day. She thanked medical staff and the people of Salisbury for their help and described her ordeal as somewhat disorientating. The attack with a nerve agent on Yulia and Sergei Skripal has sparked an international diplomatic crisis, and the recrimination between Russia and the West intensified again today. Here's our diplomatic correspondent, James Landau.
It's just over 4 weeks since Sergei and Yulia Skripal were found poisoned by a nerve agent on this bench in Salisbury. 4 weeks during which the former Russian intelligence officer and his 33-year-old daughter have lain critically ill, at times in a coma. But today, Ms. Skripal revealed that she, at least, was on the mend. In a statement issued on her behalf by the police, she said, "I woke up over a week ago now and am glad to say my strength is growing daily. I'm grateful for the interest in me and for the many messages of goodwill that I've received. I have many people to thank for my recovery and would especially like to mention the people of Salisbury that came to my aid when my father and I were incapacitated." She thanked the staff of Salisbury District Hospital for their care and added, "I'm sure you appreciate that the entire episode is somewhat disorientating, and I hope that you'll respect my privacy and that of my family during the period of my convalescence." Earlier, Russian television broadcast an unverified recording of an alleged phone call between Yulia Skripal and her cousin Victoria, in which Ms. Skripal reportedly claimed that everyone's health was okay with no irreversible harm and that she'd be discharged soon. In London, the Russian ambassador used a news conference once again to deny his country's involvement in the attack on Ms. Skripal and welcomed the news she was recovering.
I'm really happy. And I hope that the Sergei Skripal will also recover. And I'm quite sure that one day Yulia will come back to Moscow.
Today, the Foreign Office said Ms. Skripal had been told about the Russian embassy's offer of consular assistance, but had yet to take up the offer. That didn't stop the ambassador again protesting at his lack of access.
Today, Scotland Yard and the British government is refusing to communicate with us. No answer. The telephones are switched off. So that's the problem for us.
1 month on from the attack on the Skripals, the Russian defiance continues. At an extraordinary news conference here at the Russian embassy for almost 2 hours, the Russian ambassador denied that Russia was involved in the Salisbury attack, denied that it had even ever made Novichok nerve agent, and denied that Russia was internationally isolated. And tonight, Russia will step up that defiance at the United Nations, calling a meeting of the Security Council to challenge the accusations laid at its door. James Landell, BBC News.
Well, let's take a look at what's happening at the United Nations. As James just mentioned, the Security Council convening this evening. This was at Moscow's request. I want to discuss the British accusations around the Salisbury attack. Of course, Russia continuing to deny that it has had any involvement in the use of a nerve agent on Yulia and Sergei Skripal. Britain's envoy to the UN saying that London fears it will be another step in Russia's pattern of obfuscation and contempt for international institutions. But the deputy UN ambassador from Russia said those who spread lies about alleged Russian involvement in the Salisbury poisoning must understand that such irresponsible behaviour has its price. So we'll wait and see how those